Good morning, everybody. I want to take this opportunity on this beautiful sunny morning to film this video. Sam and Lumi are still snoozing. Um, this video will focus on the Amy blouse. I'm not going to teach this as a tutorial, but I do want you to know how to change the pattern so that you will have success in making this blouse if you choose to make the blouse to go with it. Now, my version of Amy, as we've talked about before, the one that I used, is this very old one. And probably the blouse has the most things that need to be changed, but I don't really know what they corrected and what they didn't correct over the years. But with the information that you're going to get today, you will be able to look at your blouse pattern and determine what needs to be fixed. Okay? And this is not exclusive to Children's Corner. I mean, these issues with patterns can go across the board of designers. So, all right, first of all, let's say that your front piece is perfectly fine. It's got a 1/4 inch seam allowance. It's centered on the fold. I will say that this blouse is a little bit short. If your child is going to wear this blouse with anything other than this jumper, it's fine for the jumper, but it is a little short, so they would not be able to, it wouldn't stay tucked in other words. So you might want to consider lengthening it before you cut out your fabric. Okay. Number 2, let's talk about the collar. And I'm going to flip this pattern over because the collar is cut in the opposite, it's drawn the opposite way. So this is your center front fold here. You're going to take your collar, and where the intersection of your seam lines meet, you're going to put that on the fold and lay this on your pattern. Okay, just the front portion. The back, as this goes around, it changes how it's going to be sewn on because it is a partial roll collar. But if you lay this on the front like this, you will see how the collar is going to lie on the blouse, and you want to make your straight of grain line parallel with the center front, which we know is on the straight of grain. So you make your straight of grain line. Now, where they have it is not terrible, but it is a little bit off. These should actually be perpendicular to each other, this line and this line, and you can see that they're off a little. The reason you need to pay attention to this is because you want your collar bias to be at your shoulder, and this is kind of on the bias, but it's not true bias. So as it goes over the shoulder, you want that collar to be able to curve over the shoulder, and that's why it needs to be biased right here, where it goes over the shoulder. Okay, this is true for every collar that you make, but it is especially important in a bigger collar that's going to lay out on the shoulder more. This little collar is meant to have piping. If you wanted to add trim that's more than piping, like say a 3/8 inch little piece of gathered lace or something, you would need to redraft that pattern. But it's not hard to do, but we're not going to get into that today. All right, the next thing that needs to be changed is the sleeve, which went somewhere that I don't know where it is. It was just here a second ago. Huh. Well, let's go on to the back, and maybe the sleeve will appear. Oh, wait a minute. Nope. Okay, let's go on to the back, and I'll get back to the sleeve. Oh, here's the sleeve. Never mind. Okay, so on the sleeve pattern, you can see that this is where they want you to stop gathering for the top, and this is where they want you to stop gathering for the bottom. That's incorrect. In order for a sleeve to puff correctly, these have to be in line with each other. So you can see on this side, I picked a place that was kind of in between the two, and I made my X here, and I made my X here. That works fine for this sleeve. There are some sleeves and a more fitted sleeve where you have to be very careful what you do here. We call it no man's land. There's some things that can't be changed. However, for this pattern, this works. And just a note, I think I might have said it before, when I join my sleeve seam and my lining pieces under the arm, I just do a flat seam and press it open. I don't know about your kids, but my kids always were very sensitive to anything that was bulky under their arm or uncomfortable, so I just do that. And it's just a tiny little seam. It hardly matters at all. Okay, so that's the sleeve. That's fine. The sleeve band is fine. The back is very incorrect. All right, so there's multiple things wrong here. The center back line is fine. The fold, they tell you to use a 3/8 inch button, but that is actually incorrect for this, the way this pattern is drawn. It is really drawn for a 1/2 inch button. I have a 1/2 inch button here. That means the diameter is a 1/2 inch. All right. And your lap, your button lap, which is from your center line to your fold, is always supposed to be the diameter of your button. Okay. This is much bigger than 3/8 of an inch. It is a 1/2 inch. If you can see that, that's a 1/2 inch. Okay, so that's wrong. But what's even more wrong is the size of this facing. First of all, it says cut on the selvage. We've talked about that. You never cut on the selvage because the selvage behaves differently and sometimes it shrinks. And then you'll have a real mess. So you want to add 1/4 of an inch that you can turn under and stitch on the machine so that your inside edge is finished. But if you fold this under, and I've drawn a line, it doesn't, I'm going to erase this line because it serves no purpose, but it's to show you where the facing comes. Okay, that is not, so when I fold it under, it comes over on the back side right to here. All right, that is not going to support your buttonholes because the second part of this, or the third or whatever we're at here, that's wrong is their buttonholes are drawn in incorrectly. Let me see if we can focus in on that. First of all, this button hole, the way it's drawn, would never fit a 3/8 inch button, maybe a 1/4 inch. But it's placed wrong too. And I've seen even on one of their very, very new patterns, the buttonhole is drawn the same way. Buttonholes do not just straddle 50-50 where your center back is, okay? They are supposed to ride like this one. The thickness of your button is on this side, and the width of your button is on this side. So if I were going to use a 1/2 inch button here, it would be like that. Well, that's way off the facing, so that is wrong. Even if I were going to use a 3/8 inch button, so I would want 1/8 of an inch here, and I would want 3/8, 1, 2, 3. It still doesn't support the button, okay, because it would have to be that long, okay? So you need to make your facing bigger. It needs to be, rule of thumb works, that it is this facing width right here, whoops, right here. Oh my goodness, let me go back out here. This facing width needs to be the width of your button lap, which for a 1/2 inch button is a 1/2 inch, plus 1 inch, plus whatever you want to turn under, which is about 1/4 of an inch, okay? So that would be a 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch and a half, plus 1/4. So it would be 1 3/4, and this one is only 3/4, okay? So it is way off. When you redraw that, you need to make sure that you draw in the curve so that when it folds back, it's going to follow this curve. If you do it straight, it's going to fall off the seam line at some point. Okay, so you need to do that. The other thing that's wrong about this is that this button is way too high. Good luck trying to do that. It's not going to work. Your first button goes the width of your, the diameter of your button right down there, okay? So wherever, so it's in this case, it would be a 1/2 inch down from your seam line. Okay, that's where your first button goes. What was I going to say? So this is why, if you've ever taken a class from Cindy Foose, she makes you take a pledge at the beginning of her class that you will never, 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 ever, never, ever, ever cut out your dress or your garment before you have your buttons, because this needs to be the way it is, center back. I mean, it will also mess up your placket, the way your placket falls and folds over if you alter this. Center back has to always stay center back, the same with center front. This you never, never change. This can be changed for whatever purposes you need to, but you cannot change center back, okay? So I won't make you take a pledge, but you really need to decide at least what size button you're going to use, even if you don't have it in your hand. But it's always good to have your buttons before you cut out your fabric. Okay, I think that's about it. Otherwise, this little pattern goes together quite nicely, quite easily. And I did also want to tell you that if you do not have one of these little Westcott rulers, you should get them. I have several of them because I misplace them all the time. They're made by a company called Westcott that is actually in Connecticut, but I believe they're distributed through California. They make a 12-inch one too that I have, but this little 6-inch ruler is invaluable because it's got 1/8 inch marks and it's see-through. So I know they have them on Amazon, and they're great, so get one of those. The other thing I wanted to say, and I don't think I said it in my previous video, but when it comes to clipping seam allowances, you need a pair of scissors that are sharp out to the point. Where am I here? These are, you know, they don't need to be like this, but my little Dovos that I love so much, I have like 4 or 5 pair of these different sizes. But when you take your scissors to be sharpened, make sure you tell the person that's sharpening your scissors what you use them for, and they will pay attention to making sure they're sharp all the way to the point. I've gotten scissors back, if I don't do that, that are nice and sharp at the crotch here, but they're not sharp at the point. So you need to tell them that you need the scissors as sharp at the point as they are down the blade. I think that's it. I hope I haven't missed anything. I hope you've enjoyed these videos. I have no idea if I'm going to continue to do this or not. But for now, we're done. I will schedule another Zoom meeting for maybe a week and a half or so, or we can get together and you can show me what you've done and ask questions and see if there's any issues or anything. So that's it. Have a wonderful day. I hope you get outside and plant some flowers. Bye.